Good morning, everyone. Chair would observe that there appears to be a quorum in the room. Clerk, call the roll.
I got you.
One, two, okay, clerk. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Again, good morning, everyone. We've got a fairly heavy docket this morning of some bills that are, a few of them are a little bit complicated. So we will proceed. Senator Suderline. Okay. Senator Deeds.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I hope this one's not the complicated bill. I'm Senate Bill 691, which you've seen multiple times before. It's to add not conservation police, but basically the employees of the Department of Conservation and Recreation that run our state parks to the Valors program. You've seen this before, and the justification for this is that these, and I've got something I'm handing out right now. These people on very short staff basically are city managers. They manage our state parks. Our state parks have been an incredible source of revenue and tourism for us and they seem to be improving all the time. That this is an issue that's been before the committee before, and we've hemmed and hawed, and frankly, we've looked at ways to study the system, but we're back now, I think, for the 12th or 13th year with this bill. And I know I've introduced it I haven't introduced it that long, it's my understanding other people have. But it's very simple in what it does. There are people here that would like to speak to it. If you've got questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Thanks, Senator Deeds. You are correct. We are familiar with this one, and we'd be pleased to hear some brief testimony on it.
Very good morning. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of, I'm Tim Kennel. I'm the advocacy chair for the Virginia Association for Parks. I am speaking on behalf of Senate Bill 691, the inclusion of conservation officers for the Department of Conservation and Recreation as members of Law Enforcement Officers Retirement System, VALORS. In 2008, the JLARC report entitled Review of State Total Compensation supported the inclusion of the conservation of our conservation officers in the Department of Conservation and Recreation in VALORS. Since that time, VML and VACO have both supported this action. They support the inclusion of conservation officers in VALORS because conservation officers are expected to protect and preserve the lives and property of our citizens and guests, while also protecting the unique and irreplaceable natural and cultural resources of the Commonwealth. That's a huge job. Our conservation recreational officers are charged with protecting some 104 sites, equating to 125,252 acres, representing 41 state park sites, over 70,000 acres, and 61 natural area sites, 55,352 acres. Visitation continues to grow with over 10,500,000 total visitors and 1,233,779 overnight visitors just last year. Our concern is our ability to hire and retain quality conservation officers now and in the future because of our inability to compete with other law enforcement agencies' benefits programs. The Department of Conservation and Recreation is an accredited law enforcement agency by the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission. DCR and ABC are the only statewide law enforcement agencies so accredited, and ABC is already covered by VALORS. It's no wonder we lose our conservation officers to other law enforcement agencies. Inclusion in VALORS will also have a positive impact on morale for the officers of the department through the enhanced sense of equitability when compared to other law enforcement officers across the Commonwealth. Yes, the $358,000 that we ask in both years 1 and 2 are a significant investment. However, it cost over $800,000 a mile in just tar and gravel in Virginia to pave a road to VDOT standards. Asphalt's considerably higher. We're just simply asking for less than half a mile to fund the inclusion of conservation officers of the Department of Conservation and Recreation into Valor's. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator, did you have others that?
I think
Does that do it?
Yes, sir.
Anyone additional to speak in support of this measure? Anyone here opposed to this measure? Members of the committee, as Senator Deeds indicated there, we've heard this a number of times. Did you have any additional remarks?
Just the simple fact is we've got to find a way to incentivize keeping the best quality people we can in these jobs, because it's important. It's important to our economy. It's important to the communities where these parks are, and it's important to people that visit our parks that we have the top-notch people there to maintain the parks and also to maintain order. There's lots of justification, I think, for including these men and women in the Valor's program.
Okay, thank you, Senator Deeds. Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee? Senator Deeds indicated we've dealt with this several times before, and we've not been successful. He said this is his 13th time doing it?
I think the bill's been introduced 13 times. I think I've only done it 4, 5, 6 times, something like that.
All right, what's the pleasure of the committee? Senator Norman.
I can't really remember what I did yesterday, but if I'm correct, we had a similar bill last year on this, and while we're enormously appreciative of what the individuals in our parks do, I just honestly, as I look on the horizon, I just don't think we have it in the bandwidth to address it this year. And I know that's a disappointment, but this committee, Senator Deeds, as you well know, is going to have to make some really tough decisions in the next few weeks as we work towards constructing a budget. And, Mr. Chairman, I just don't see that we're going to be able to do this year. And I don't mean to be offensive, but consistent with last year, I would move that we pass Senate Bill 691 by indefinitely.
Okay. There's a motion properly supported that the bill be passed by indefinitely for this year. Senator Deeds, maybe the 14th time will work. We'll hopefully, we can talk about this. I understand the merit. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to pass by indefinitely will record your votes. Clerk, open the roll. Record your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Ayes 12, no 0. The bill is passed by for the year. Thank you, Senator Deeds. Okay. Senator Cosgrove. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, I have before you 2 bills today. If we can, we can start with Senate Bill 814.
814.
Yes, sir.
All right. Members.
Mr. Chairman, I think I know what the disposal of this bill is going to be, and that's actually okay. I did bring this bill forward. It basically would cap the sales tax on newly purchased aircraft sales in the Commonwealth. Currently, North Carolina has a $2,500 cap on sales tax on aircraft. And the reason I did this is because Dollar Tree has moved their headquarters to the city of Chesapeake. And, I mean, they employ thousands and thousands of people, plus they have a couple of Gulfstream aircraft. They have made the decision to basically do all their aircraft operations out of Raleigh because of their tax structure. If we're wanting more and more to bring these large companies in, and certainly there are many, many larger than Dollar Tree, I think that was a carrot that we should probably see about offering in the future. The financial impact is pretty substantial in a negative fashion.
Right.
And basically, I would like the committee to perhaps just keep this in the back of your minds. And when we talk about tax policy, this might be something we want to look at doing.
Okay.
And since they already moved the aircraft to North Carolina. Yeah.
The aircraft is in North Carolina now?
It is.
Okay.
And because of our tax structure.
Okay. All right. Point well made. I presume you don't have anybody here to speak to this?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, I think Senator Cosgrove recognizes where we're at. Were you queued up to speak on this? Okay. If you want to make a quick statement on it, sure.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mark Flynn, Director of the Department of Aviation. Needless to say, this would severely cripple our operations. We have relationships with all of the universities where we assist them to get to places they need to go. We would probably end up selling aircraft. This would be about 60% of the fund that we use for that operation. We also would stop doing maintenance programs for airports. It'd be really tough on all of our airports across the Commonwealth, cutting trees, building fences, putting in instrument approaches, all those things. So certainly, and we've spoken with Senator Cosgrove.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mark. I actually thought you were going to support this, so I wouldn't have called you up if I knew you were going to be against it.
No, the first the first month on my job, I don't want to have to lay off.
The
half the
patron has
people.
already acknowledged you had an uphill shove, and you come in and speak against it. Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Consider it at a later time.
Okay, motion, is there a second to PBI? Okay, motion properly supported to pass the bill by indefinitely, that we would also consider, policy of this nature as we were looking at our tax reform policies. Okay, clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Record your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 12, nay 0.
Ayes 12, nay 0. Thank you, Senator Cosgrove.
Yes, sir, I have one more for you.
One more,
for your
okay.
pleasure today.
We'll go to there too then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 213 before your committee today.
Okay, Senate Bill 213.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, the legislation clarifies that fighter and attack jets used to service the federal government, regardless of whether they are owned or leased by a private entity, are defined as a public aircraft. Additionally, basically, well, let me explain this to you, Mr. Chairman. There's a company called ATAG. They are located in Newport News at the Patrick Henry Airport. This is a very unique company. It actually owns several Kafir fighter jets. It owns a couple of F-16 fighter jets, but it also leases a couple of Hunter fighter jets from Canada. The reason this bill is before you is that the fighter jets that are owned by ATAG are not considered taxable. They are considered public aircraft. This company uses these fighter jets as aggressors to help train the United States Navy and the United States Air Force in combat maneuvers here and across the globe. Currently, if they lease an aircraft, that is considered taxable. But, Mr. Chairman, it just seems that, and these are not trainers, they're one-seaters, so it's not like they're offering rides to fly over the Virginia Capes. This bill would simply state that the leased aircraft specifically used for the service to the federal government would not be covered by the tax. And, Mr. Chairman, what law is to Senator Norman, what real estate is to you, this is to me. This is where I came from. I've been out there. I've seen their operations. It's amazing, and they serve a very, very valuable service to the United States military. So I hope we would support this.
Okay, Senator Norman.
I think one of the concerns was perhaps a retroactive application back to 2010. I realize that you are a proponent of the bill. Is there any flexibility in your mind on that?
Absolutely, sir. The retroactivity can just go over the sunset.
Okay.
Senator Norman.
Mr. Chairman, then if I could propose conceptually an amendment to delete the reference to the retroactivity and make it prospective. Can we do that, Mark?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I do have that amendment. Once that amendment is offered, you may also want to consider then striking the fourth enactment clause. Those amendments really go in tandem. The fourth enactment clause would not require the Department of Taxation to repay back any taxes that were paid, but since you're getting rid of the retroactivity, these probably would go hand in hand.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, there seems to be some interest in that proposed amendment.
Okay, so Senator Norman has offered a motion. Is there a second to that amendment? Second. Motion properly supported to amend the retroactivity out of the bill. All those in favor say.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, I do have Michelle
yes,
Satterlin
they-
to speak for ATAC.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Michelle Satterlin, McGuire Woods Consulting on behalf of ATAC. Yes, there is a retroactive clause in that. That was purposely put in there to protect against ATAC having to go back 6 years, which is allowed by the tax department to look for any planes that may have touched down in Virginia for more than 60 days. These are old planes, they require maintenance, and oftentimes they are brought to Newport News to maintain. But to protect the Department of Aviation and the Department of Tax, if you looked at the last enactment clause, we said neither one has to refund any monies that are paid. This was simply the only way we could figure out how to protect ourselves from having to go back and search through 6 years of records to figure out if there was a plane that met these requirements.
okay.
So we have vetted the language through the Department of Tax, the Department of Aviation. We know of no opponents and think that everyone is on board with this.
Maybe not everyone.
Yeah. Is there a known amount of billed tax that has not been paid, that's being contested, anything of that nature?
Mr. Chairman, Mark Flynn is here from the Department of
Okay.
Aviation. Perhaps he can answer your question.
Yes, sir. We have an idea of fairly significant tax amount that has not been paid, but we also know that we did receive a not insignificant amount of tax payments from the owner of the aircraft already. So I'm sorry, I didn't follow. Does the amendment strike both the second and fourth enactment clauses?
Mr. Chairman, the amendment is to change the date on the second enactment clause to make it prospective July 1, 2018, so striking September 1, 2010, replacing it with that July 1 date, and to strike the fourth enactment clause in total.
So I will say that that the compromise that we worked out was that not to have to pay back any of the money we'd gotten and to not worry about the money that hadn't been paid. However, whatever the will of the committee is, I think we'd be all right with.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Norman?
I'm not particularly cranky this morning, but you're speaking in vague terms about not an insignificant amount of money. How about put some dollars in front of me so I know what we're talking about?
Right. Well, I have some concern about disclosure of tax amounts paid, because I don't, but it's 5 figures that have been paid, and it's probably 6 figures that have not been paid that we would probably end up going after.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Saslow?
This is a private company, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I assume a for-profit company.
Yes, sir.
Why do we need, I mean, we have a lot of companies at Tyson's Corner that provide valuable services to the government, and they pay taxes, and we don't give them any breaks. Why do we have to do this out of curiosity for this one particular company?
Right. Well, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't with the department before. When the original law was enacted, if you owned an airplane and it was used exclusively for training military, if you're using a military jet to train our military, then it was the policy of the General Assembly that that was not subject to tax. The issue came up that in this particular case, it's the lessee of the aircraft, not the owner, that's providing the aircraft for that service. So you can imagine if you have 2 jets sitting side by side on the ramp, one's owned and is used for training military, and one is leased. The one that's owned is not taxed under the current law. The one that is leased is taxed. This bill says, doesn't matter if you own it or lease it, it's not taxed. As far as the policy of whether that should be taxable at all, I have no opinion on that.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, to Senator Saslow. Senator Saslow, as Mr. Flynn just said, the company owns a number of fighter jets, and these are extraordinarily technical and very expensive aircraft. They own Israeli Kafirs, great airplane, and in fact, it's one of the world's best. They also own a couple of F-16s. They're actually going to be delivered here shortly. Those are not taxed. Those are considered public aircraft because they're used specifically for the training of the U.S. Armed Forces. They also lease from a Canadian company several aircraft called Hunters. Okay, they're an older technology aircraft but they still mimic aircraft that are used by other countries throughout the world. So if you put all three of those types of aircraft together, side by side, they have the same mission, the same pilots, the same maintenance facility, they're in the same hangar. Plane 1 and Plane 2 are considered public aircraft. Because the other one is leased, it's not considered a public aircraft. It does the same job, and it's used for training and military services.
Okay. Senator Norman?
Well, the fact that I see at least one person there from the, who is not involved in state government suggests to me that there's some fiscal issues involved in this, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. Is it possible, both from a policy and a fiscal standpoint, to allow the collection of taxes that have not been paid, but to not engage in the refunds that have been paid, that may be requested?
I would defer to both Mr.
No, I'm interested in what taxation says,
Okay, then I'll defer to them.
or whomever.
Is anybody?
Nobody wants to step up.
Okay,
Well,
so,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Norman could restate the question, I didn't. Is it possible to not have the retroactivity? I'm sorry. could
Is
you
it possible not to engage in a refund that may have been paid, but allow us to collect any delinquent taxes?
I would have to, I'm sorry, but I do
Right.
have to defer to tax on that. They are the collecting agency. We would certainly, the department would do its part to try to assess the taxes and have them collected.
and Mark, in constructing this, Mark here, it seems the only fair way to do it would be, if we're going to make a change where they're not taxable moving forward, is that it doesn't matter whether you paid it or not, it was taxable. So we wouldn't refund, but we would also still could pursue collection for those who haven't paid. Is that the posture we want to be in?
That is what the amendments do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the amendments that you've drawn would do that?
Yes, I think you heard, Mr. Chairman, that a five-figure tax amount had been paid, but perhaps a six-figure amount was due. If that is the case, then the fourth enactment clause is not needed, because there is no reason for, in my mind, for the tax department to pay anything back to the client when they're in fact collecting perhaps additional taxes by assessing the back taxes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so conceptually then, Senator Norman's proposed amendment then would basically say, moving forward, once the amendment is adopted, these aircraft will not be taxable, but as of the point of effective date back, whether they paid or not, they were taxable.
Yes, sir.
No refunds will be issued, but you can pursue collection. Okay, is that, we're agreed on that?
Yes, sir.
All right, the amendment is before us. There's been a motion. Was there a second? Motion properly supported. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the bill is in front. All right, we had some additional speakers here.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members. Linwood Butner with KVCF Solutions on behalf of Virginia Aviation Business, and we do support the bill as amended.
As amended?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Charlie Croson, representing the City of Newport News, and we do support the bill
As amended.
as amended.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Norman?
let me tell you why I support it, is because Senator Cosgrove wore a pink shirt today. That was persuasive.
Anyone here opposed to this
I
bill
know
as
who I come
amended?
before, sir.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion properly supported to report the bill as amended. Senate Bill 213. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 11, nay 0, 1 abstention.
Senator Vogel, she got one of those airplanes? Okay, the bill is reported, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you very much,
Okay.
both chairmen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, back to our list. Is Senator Suderline in the room now? If not, Senator Reeves.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
If we could start with 468.
Senate Bill 468. As you begin, Senator Reeves, I would say we have several bills related to line of duty, so go ahead and present your bill.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this confers eligibility that's not currently available for the death benefits under the line of duty to any employee of the Department of Military Affairs whose death is the direct or proximate result of the performance of their duties of the agency when those duties are related to a major disaster or emergency. What this does really is just add the Department of Military Affairs, our National Guard folks who respond to VDEM emergencies. Right now, currently VDEM employees are covered under Line of Duty Act. Our guardsmen that respond over to the TAC headquarters and everything else, if it's under those emergency situations, are not covered. To the best of my knowledge, I don't believe this has a physical impact at all, Mr. Chairman, which is probably music to your ears. But it would add that those Department of Military Affairs state employees would be included in the line of duty and the performance of those duties during a national or a state emergency. That's the bill, Mr. Chairman. I have
Okay.
the Colonel here and speak to it as well if we need to.
Okay, if the Colonel would like to speak to the bill, we'd be pleased to hear.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
The Department of Military Affairs certainly supports this bill, puts our state employees, our non-uniform state employees on the same footing as the Virginia Department of Emergency Management employees when they have to respond to a state-declared emergency. We expect this to be a very few number of employees, less than 20, and a very few number of days each year. There's no fiscal impact to this. We just want to put our folks on the same footing as those in the Virginia Department of Emergency Management.
Okay, thank you. Senator Reeves, and there may, if there's anyone here else to speak to the bill, either for or against? Senator Reeves, in some preliminary conversations with members of the committee, we were all aware of the fact that we had made revisions in line of duty. We had a task force work group working on that, and the dust hasn't really settled on the changes that we put in place. And it was the thinking that all of these line of duty is probably, or at least yours particularly, has merit, so it should be continued. And we may need to restart this work group. I'm not sure where we go with this. But that was the initial thinking. Members of the committee have a different thought on that? Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee? I would think the bill has merit, so if we would just continue it for the year to the 2019 session.
I'm fine with being part of the work group if that
Okay.
helps. I'm not on finance, but.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to carry the bill over to the 2019 session.
Okay. Is there a second to that? Motion properly supported to carry the bill over, continue it to 2019, the Senate Bill 468. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 12, no zero.
Ayes 12, no zero. The bill is continued. And Senator Reeves, I'm not sure what we may do to work on this, or whether we need to get that work group going again. Delegate Jones had chaired that, but
You need me to follow up with Chris then?
Yeah, let's follow up on that. Get his thoughts on that if you don't mind, and we'll see what we can do in the interim. Do you have another bill?
Senate Bill 462, Mr. Chairman. When we first heard this bill, I don't think there was a whole lot of issue, but an issue got a little fever on whether or not it was constitutional to strike out nonprofit private institution. An opinion from the Attorney General's office thought that could cause a conflict, so you should have an amendment in the nature of a substitute that puts that language back in to the bill.
We got a substitute? All right. All right. Is there a motion to adopt the substitute? Motion properly supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we have the amendment in the nature of a substitute for Senate Bill 462.
So, Mr. Chairman, you heard this bill before. What we're trying to do is allow the Guard a recruiting tool to keep and retain guardsmen. This specific legislation does allow them to add textbooks, and if they're awarded the grant, there is a 2-year obligation that is provided with that 2-year commitment to the Commonwealth. So it'll allow them licensure, certification credentials, like a lot of the Cisco and welding and all the other things that we're looking for will allow these guardsmen to do that. So the tuition assistance, funds to pay books, that's the bill. And again, the colonel's here to talk to you all about some of the challenges they're facing and why this would be a great recruiting tool.
Okay?
Sir, as Senator Reeves said, this is a recruiting tool for us. We've had it for a while, the state tuition assistance. What this does is kind of clarifies things for us on the 2-year obligation. The two-year obligation is already within the code, but it clarifies that that obligation is a 2-year obligation to the Virginia National Guard, not just any National Guard, and it clarifies when that obligation starts, so we know when the start time is for that 2 years. In addition, the bill adds textbooks. We don't expect that there will be no fiscal impact from this. We'll be paying for the textbooks. When we have those funds available, we'll pay for textbooks as well. You know, in some years past, we've had money to give back. We'd like to be able to use that money for textbooks for the soldiers and the airmen. So
that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
I believe the substitute is basically a clarification, but then you add the textbook. So I guess that's the issue in front of us. And it's been suggested to us that that would be a minimal impact drawing against a finite fund.
Well, I agree, Mr. Chairman. I think if we're going to allow them to go to school, they ought to have books to read. So,
okay, Senator Norman.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the substitute be reported.
Is there a second? Motion properly supported that Senate Bill 462. Is there anyone here to speak otherwise other than the Colonel? Okay. There's a motion properly supported that the amendment nature's substitute for Senate Bill 462 be reported. Further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 12, no 0.
Ayes 12, no 0. The bill is reported.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Reeves. Senator Peterson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is another Line of Duty Act bill, Senate Bill 904, and I have a witness I'd like to speak to it, but before I call him up, I'll just give a little bit of context. This came to my attention from actually a constituent of Senator Stewart's, who was a Fairfax City policeman, was injured in the line of duty, and has been having issues using the benefits from that line of duty to care for his family. And there are really two specific issues that I tried to get at with this bill. One is this issue of eligible dependent. In his case, he had 2 children that were born after the injury, 2 of whom I believe suffer from autism. He can give you those details, but was not able to get coverage for them under the current language that we have in the statute. So basically what I did was rephrase the eligible dependent to make it the dependents of the injured person. And then secondly, there was an issue, and I think he could elaborate on this better than I could, about still being eligible to receive benefits through the plan that you had. The city of Fairfax had a plan for its police department, and I take it that the benefits were superior to what he was getting under the Line of Duty Act, but apparently those were mutually exclusive. So I really don't want to trespass too much on your time because this is not my expertise, but Mr. Scott Burris is here if he could come forward.
We'd be pleased to hear from the gentleman.
Scott, just go to it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Scott Burris. I'm a retired police officer from Fairfax County Police Department. I was injured in the line of duty, and as a result of my injuries, I had multiple surgeries. Unfortunately, I couldn't return to duty. I was retired on a service-connected disability. The Line of Duty Act is a great act, as everybody must know. It helps the families of first responders that are killed in the line of duty. It also helps families of first responders that are disabled in the line of duty. One of the major factors is it provides medical insurance to those people. My family receives the medical insurance under the Line of Duty Act. Prior to July 1st, we were on our Fairfax County insurance plan. When I retired, we stayed on our plan as everybody else through Virginia did as well. On July 1st, the Line of Duty Act changed. There was 2, I believe, unintended consequences. Number 1, my children, Hunter and Luke, as well as other children, were kicked off our insurance. I just got a letter in the mail out of the blue. I wasn't even aware there was legislation pending. I've dove head deep into this. My children and other children of first responders have always been insured since they were born. It's never been a problem. Department of Accounts has known about it. The municipality's known about it. It was fine. It didn't cost anybody any money. It didn't cost the Commonwealth of Virginia any money. It didn't cost the localities any money, because if you're on a family plan, whether you have 2 kids or 30 kids, the premium's the same. I reached out to Department of Human Resources Management and spoken with them. They said that there's a small number of people that are in the predicament that I am. They've received a ton of complaints from people like me. Under the new policy, I was told that family plans were being disbanded, and that's why my 2 youngest were being kicked off the plan. I found the new insurance plan, the new LODA plan, that's being run by the state. I looked at the premiums. The premiums are the same. It's broken into a single payer or a family plan. So a family plan is the same whether you have 2 kids or 30 kids. I spoke with DHRM, and they confirmed that. They confirmed that adding my dependents and the dependents of other disabled first responders that were booted off on July 1st would cost the Commonwealth no more money. They said there's such a small number that it wouldn't even affect the insurance pool. There's just such a small number, they said it wouldn't affect the insurance pool. The other, what I believe is the unintended consequence, was the financial burden that the new insurance policy has caused first responders that are disabled and killed in the line of duty. The copays and deductibles on this new policy have doubled and tripled. I have a daughter that has special needs. And under this new policy, her speech copay is doubled, forcing my wife and I to cut back on her speech therapy. Excuse me. I can give you a ton of examples how this policy doesn't even compare to the policy I had with Fairfax County. My wife recently went to the doctor for a routine visit. What would have been a $25 copay under our previous plan cost me over $225. I had to pay for the $25 copay. I had to pay for blood work that was previously covered in my previous insurance plan. And I had to pay for an EKG in the office, which would have been previously covered. I know other sheriff's deputies that have retired whose medications are no longer covered in this new plan. There's one lady who I spoke to who is on precancerous treatment for esophagus cancer. That medication is no longer covered by this new insurance plan. I've talked to another deputy whose husband, his prostate medicine is no longer covered on this policy. I don't think anybody, when they voted for this, wanted to cause a financial burden on disabled, law enforcement, first responders, and their families, or the families of fallen first responders. The copays and the deductibles have skyrocketed. I can't afford it. I have to pick and choose when I send my kids to the doctor. I'm asking for help. What I'm asking for in Senator Peterson is to be able to go back onto our plans with the municipalities. I understand some municipalities and some state governments are better than others, but I made that choice and I went to Fairfax. I had a choice to go to be a police officer anywhere in Virginia. I had offers from Virginia State, Richmond, Henrico, Hanover. I went to Fairfax. One of the reasons was for the benefits.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming this morning and sharing the dilemma that has been created for you. Senator Peterson, you have additional?
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize, I misspoke. He was a Fairfax County police officer, obviously. And secondly, I should have emphasized the fact that it was the change that we made to the law, which took effect July 1st, that put him in this predicament. I apologize not highlighting that.
Okay. All right. Anyone here to speak additionally for or against the bill? Senator Peterson, again, I would kind of set the stage. We made these changes that the dust hasn't totally settled on, and we probably would be better served by, rather than piecemealing it. I understand there's a direct implication for your constituent here, but there are costs associated, and that's exemplified by the fact that you're having to pay out of pocket all these additional dollars under this other plan. The total impact of what was done was projected to save about $39 million a year, and I believe we're going to have to revisit it. And the way to do that, I suppose, would be to continue the bill and to get the work group reactivated on this particular issue, unless some members of the committee have a different opinion about that. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I would say to Senator Peterson and his witness, thank you very much for bringing it forward, and I appreciate that it's creating a hardship and that it becomes very personal, especially when you're dealing with children. But I don't think that we can deal with these loader provisions in a vacuum, and I think we're going to have to deal with them all as a group, and that's why we've been carrying the other ones over until 2019. So not trying to be insensitive, but realizing the fiduciary responsibility we have, I'd respectfully move to carry the bill over to reactivate that study group and to come up with a comprehensive recommendations to the committee for 2019.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Senator Carrico.
And I understand Senator Peterson's efforts here, and while we're considering that, I have one that's similar to Senator Peterson's, Senate Bill 494, and knowing that this committee is looking at several different options, I would just ask that the committee do the same on mine, because mine's dealing with spouses that had coverage prior to us making changes and being dropped, and they were paying the premium. They weren't, and this would allow them to continue to pay those premiums. So I think it would be appropriate if we're going to treat Senator Peterson's bill in the same manner that we treat mine the same way.
Okay. All right, we'll do it separately. All right, we'll do it separately. All right, there was a motion properly supported to continue this particular bill, Senate Bill 904, Line of Duty Act, to the 2019 session, with the understanding that we're going to try to reactivate the work group to deal with some of these changes that have caused some problems for some of our constituents. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, open the roll.
The roll is open.
The roll is open. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 13, noes 1.
Ayes 13, noes 1. The bill will be continued to the 2019 session. And and also, while we're at it, Senate Bill 494, at the patron's request, the chair would entertain a motion that that bill be continued to the 2019 session. Motion properly supported that Senate Bill 494 be continued to the 2019 session. All those, well, clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Ayes 14, noes 1. The bill is continued. Senator Lewis.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is Senate Bill 265.
Senate Bill 265.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the indulgence of the committee and the chairs last week and letting us have another week. We wanted to send Delegate Stolle, Delegate Stolle and I wanted to have some discussions with the new administration on this particular bill, and we've had those discussions, and now I'm ready to press forward with the bill, Mr. Chairman.
It indicated, is there a substitute for this?
No, there is not.
Okay.
There is not.
This would create a new secretary.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
A couple of things, and I won't trespass on the committee's time too terribly much, since I know a number of the members of this committee heard this particular bill in the Ag Committee. A couple of things that have transpired since last we discussed this matter, obviously, and that is the warning from Moody's regarding their evaluation of flooding and resiliency efforts in their bond rating process. And also, we're down one cabinet secretary this year. As the chairs know and the committee knows, Secretary of Technology is a position that's not going to be filled. Our current situation is this. Very briefly, we've got about 2 million people in Hampton Roads that are directly impacted. Second largest population center in the United States, directly impacted by recurrent flooding. There are numerous federal assets, as this committee well knows. I'm told now that about 10 times per year, the road leading into Naval Station Norfolk is impassable because of the tides. Our port facility, obviously, the shipping industry is one that depends on getting in and out in a timely fashion and is unforgiving when that is not capable of happening. John Reinhardt has expressed his extreme concern about how we're dealing with the recurrent flooding. Public safety and quality of life obviously speak for themselves. We are experiencing increasing levels of what is called blue sky flooding, which is the result of tidal action and not significant or severe weather swings, a situation which is only going to worsen. So we've heard from Admiral Quigley, who testified in front of the Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee, and also, I believe, has sent a letter to the chairman. And among other things, Admiral Quigley points out that in the recent confirmation hearings for all the Army, Air Force, and Navy Assistant Secretary positions, each nominee was questioned by the Senate Armed Services Committee about steps they would take to counter the threat of sea level rise to their installation, providing clear evidence of the importance of this topic to the members of the Armed Services Committee in Washington. Last week, this committee heard from John Wells of THEMS about the importance of this issue and this position. All 17 localities in the Hampton Roads Planning District organization have made their support for this cabinet level position a high priority. And of course, the cities of Virginia Beach and Norfolk, who will be here to speak. And again, I point the committee to what Moody's recently said, that going forward, they will evaluate vulnerability and steps being taken by the governments that they rate in their bond rating process. Again, this sends a clear message of our seriousness of purpose, Mr. Chairman, and I think we really need to do this to move ahead and to have somebody who, when they hit the floor every morning, their feet hit the floor every morning, they are working with localities on planning, they're working with our federal partners on funding, and working to coordinate a comprehensive approach to the state. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we have some folks here to speak to it.
Okay, if we'd be pleased to hear briefly from anyone who supports this initiative.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee
Morning.
members. My name is Andrea McClellan. I'm a member of Norfolk City Council as well as a member of the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission. Happy to be with you here today. As Senator Lewis said, the Planning District Commission, the 17 municipalities unanimously support this, strongly support this, as does the City of Norfolk. Also wanted to bring with you from the Virginian pilot, flooding fight requires urgent and united action, a recent editorial. Without a doubt, this is, I think, one of the most, if not the most important issue for the region as well as for the state. It's an issue of economic security, an issue of national security, and I think a secretariat position, an executive level position is absolutely called for. It would signal to the financial community, to the military community, and to those who are using our port that we are serious about this and we are going to undertake this. This needs a sense of urgency. The longer we wait, the fewer options we have and the more expensive they become. I hope you'll support this.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming this morning.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Mathias, City of Virginia Beach. This is a issue that's impacting basically the eastern half of the state, everything east of the fall line. Cities of Arlington and Alexander are having flooding. Tangier Island is at risk. The city of Poquoson is at risk. They're only about 2 or 3 feet above sea level. This is going to impact, Senator Saslaw talks about how Northern Virginia generates about 52% of the tax revenue. I'm guessing we're probably generating east of the fall line maybe 60% of the tax revenue. And this ranges across the ability to get home insurance. It's very difficult now for anybody within a mile of waterways in Hampton Roads especially to get home insurance. Affects forestry, farming. The farmland in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake is being put at risk because of the increase in the level of Albemarle and Pamlico Sound. Perhaps 50,000 acres of prime farmland is at risk. So this goes across all secretariats. It's a very important issue. My city manager says flooding is public enemy number one. I think it's probably one of the biggest issues facing the Commonwealth. And again, it's a Commonwealth-wide issue. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, members of the committee, Phil Abraham here on behalf of the Virginia Association for Commercial Real Estate and its member chapter, the Hampton Roads Association for Commercial Real Estate. Coastal flooding is a major concern to our industry and threatens economic development activities in Hampton Roads and our ability to drive jobs and new businesses to the area. We support the bill. Urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Other speakers for or against? Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, a couple of comments. I'm generally not in the habit of defending administrations, but a decision was made by this governor to eliminate the Secretariat of Technology. However, under Commerce and Trade, he's put a chief deputy that will continue to monitor those responsibilities on that. Sort of amusing with this, we have issues, substantial fiscal issues before us on the improvement of the port. Maybe we don't need to dredge it if, in fact, we're having this higher water level that'll make up for that additional 5 feet and save us millions and millions of dollars on it. But Mr. Chairman, just my perspective is, in living in Hampton Roads and having several pieces of property on the water that are potentially impacted by this, I just don't think that this is the appropriate time to create a new secretariat. And perhaps these localities could come together and find a way to fund something like this that would provide the oversight and be a conduit for it.
Okay. With no further speakers, what's the pleasure of the committee? I would say, Senator Lewis, you've made a valiant effort to highlight the problem this year.
Yes,
and I must confess, particularly with the signals I'm getting from the administration as far as where they would like to go with the reorganization of the cabinet, that I don't believe this is one of their priorities, and I believe it can be addressed appropriately through the Secretary of Natural Resources. So that's where I'm at. What's the pleasure of the committee? Is there a second? Motion properly supported that the bill be passed by indefinitely. Further discussion? Hearing none. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 9, nays 5, 1 abstention.
Thank you, Mr.
Nays,
Chairman.
9, nays, 5. The bill is PBI. Thank you, Senator Lewis, for your efforts. And for those who came to speak in favor and pinpointing the need. Okay, Senator Suderline, I see you there now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, having voted on the prevailing side by which we voted to PBI the bill, can we reconsider that vote?
We sure can. If
Sorry.
all those in favor, clerk, we need to record this, I believe. Okay. When the clerk is ready, all those in favor of reconsideration will vote aye.
Roll is open.
Roll is open for reconsideration. Please cast your votes. Okay, clerk, close the roll. Okay,
15 to 0 to reconsider.
okay, the bill is in front of us. Senator Vogel, you have a motion?
Sorry, yes, I'll just renew the motion. The motion was made to PBI. I just wanted to revote because I voted incorrectly. I apologize.
Okay.
Senator Norman, after those admonitions on the floor, I apologize.
See, so you were not in the majority, you didn't prevail? Senator Newman, you want to renew your motion? Did you prevail?
I prevailed. I voted incorrectly.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay, got you. Oh, got you. Okay.
I meant to vote nay.
All right, we are now voting on the main motion, which was to PBI the bill. Okay? When you're ready, clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Okay, cast your votes to PBI the bill, or nay. Okay. Clerk, close the roll.
Roll is closed. 7-7 with 1 abstention.
7-7 with 1 abstention. The bill remains on the table. Okay. All right. Senator Suderline?
Great. So I guess if it doesn't go well the first time, maybe I'll get it on the second one. My bill is Senate Bill 264. It's a bill that this committee saw last year and endorsed. What it does is it creates a leave benefit for our state employees who adopt an infant. You may recall a week and a half ago, I presented the budget amendment for this. I still think it's a good idea and look forward to your questions.
Okay. I think this good idea has fiscal implications, and that would need the clause attached if we were to advance it today.
Mr. Chairman, I think that would be a fine idea.
Okay.
And then I hope you include it in the Senate budget.
All right. There's a motion. Was there a second to attach the financial contingency clause? Okay. All those in favor of that signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Okay. There's a motion already, Senator Suderline, to report your bill as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
14-1-0.
Senator Suderline, your bill is reported, 14-1.
And can I leave or should I wait to see what happens?
No, well, you get out the door. We'll think about it again.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Senator. Okay. Senator Edwards.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm going to start with Senate Bill 297. This has to do with broadband. We've heard a lot about, in recent years, the importance of broadband to all Virginia. Those areas that do not have broadband are a distinct disadvantage, both in terms of the public school students, anybody that wants to get an education, and it's especially with regard to attracting, for lack of a better word, high-tech companies. They all need broadband. You cannot function in the world today at a high level, provide the skilled training, the skilled workforce that we want in Virginia without broadband. Unfortunately, broadband is not available in many of the underserved rural areas in particular. What this bill does is say, well, let's take a look at the Tobacco Commission. I understand the Tobacco Commission, Evan Feynman's here, supports this bill, is to provide up to $10 million. You want to change it to 5? Anyway, we're looking at an amendment making $5 million for loans and or gifts, grants to underserved areas of Virginia and South Side and Southwest Virginia, which is generally the tobacco area, broadly speaking, Tobacco Commission area, broadly speaking. We do have several little minor amendments that I think are necessary.
Got some technical amendments? Does the clerk have those?
Yeah.
No?
I can read them. Who's got that? I got them.
Are they truly technical amendments?
They are technical amendments. The first one has to do with striking the word rural, change the term to unserved, instead of rural, unserved.
What line?
Line 18. I'm just doing the order in which I happen to pick them up. Line 18, change the word rural to unserved areas. Secondly, on line 19, strike the words, the sentence, rural areas means any locality with an average overall population density of less than or equal to 120 persons per square mile. Strike that, insert, quote, unserved areas, end quote, means any areas which do not generally have access to broadband with download speeds of 10 Mbps or greater and upload speeds of 1 Mbps or greater. And then that's on line 19, and that's after the word grants. And then
Senator Edwards, you're getting some pretty extensive line amendments there. We may need to pass this by at least temporarily if you want to have your speakers speak.
Okay, we can do that.
Mr. Chairman.
There's one final one, strike on line 16, strike in an amount equal to 30% of all expenditures made and insert quote or loans.
Okay.
So grants or loans.
Mr.
Okay?
Chairman,
Senator McDougal?
as Senator Edwards is going to draft his amendments, if he could add in language including the northern neck and middle peninsula of Virginia, I think Senator Stewart and I would be very appreciative of that.
I'll be happy to do that, actually.
The-
But whatever, I'm interested in having it as broadly as possible.
Senator Edwards, I think we can dress this one up, and we will. It's a heavy lift, as you recognize, with the money that you're asking for here. We got a speaker? Let's hear a speaker, and then we'll see whether there's.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Evan Feynman. I'm the Executive Director of the Tobacco Commission. We've been working with Senator Edwards' office on some amendments. I can say that, leave aside the technical amendments, which I think both we and members of the industry believe are pretty good. We have some concerns with some of the substance of the bill. $10 million from the commission budget is just too high. We only recently got on a fiscally sustainable track. If the General Assembly were to see fit to instruct us to do a lower number, say 5 or fewer millions of dollars per year, I think that could be accommodated in our budget. We're going to do 10 this year, though that's an unusual circumstance. Second of all, I think it would be a significant departure from the, with all due respect to the Senator, I think it would be a significant departure from the Tobacco Commission's entire history to spend commission resources outside of the commission footprint, which of course is only in Southside or Southwest Virginia.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator McDougal?
Are you prohibited from spending that money in other parts of the Commonwealth that populations don't have access to broadband, and actually the job economics are probably worse than in some places in Southside?
Mr. Senator, I think that the answer to that is perhaps. The code empowers the commission to set its footprint, and the footprint has been set. While I'm a gubernatorial appointee, take my direction from the commission, and the commission has seen fit to say that commission funds can only be expended in commission footprint.
Mr. Chairman?
Obviously, the code could change. And
Mr. Chairman?
Senator McDougal?
Well, for my friends who are on the commission, I will remind them that the original tobacco-producing areas of the Commonwealth were in the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula. And so there would be no tobacco area for anybody without that region of the Commonwealth. And we are significantly negatively impacted by the lack of broadband, and some small infusion of resources could have a tremendous impact. So maybe as we go through this process of looking at the Tobacco Commission in general, having that footprint include the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula will be a top priority for some of us going forward.
Okay. Senator Newman?
Mr. Chairman, Tobacco Commission, you can do this right now if you decide to, right? We appoint members, you can do this if you want to. Is that right? If the membership decides they want to spend money on broadband, they can do that?
yes, Mr. Senator.
So you don't need the bill, Mr. Chairman, you don't need the bill to be able to spend the money on broadband. It comes down to a vote of your membership on priorities. Is that correct?
Senator Newman?
I want to kill it.
Okay. You have additional speakers. I think conceptually we understand the amendments. And I just want to see where the committee is at before we have a rookie here as our staff today who's the head of legislative services, but.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we PBI the bill as much of anything before Senator McDougal gets a hold of it, because, I mean, if he gets a hold of it, then we're all in trouble. So I would hope that we would PBI the bill, and I would hope the Tobacco Commission would take a look at this. There's been a lot of money spent on a lot of things. Broadband matters. So,
if I may, Mr. Senator, both the commission and our sister agency, DHCD, as well as other folks within the administration, are looking really hard at how we can align everybody's broadband efforts, and I think you're going to see more of that in the coming months.
Okay. All right. All right. Was there a second to that motion? Second. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay.
I would say, Mr. Chairman,
Senator Evans?
one significant change would be expanding it beyond the tobacco area into areas that are also unserved.
Right.
Yeah.
But, Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, I just had a fleeting thought. Perhaps the General Assembly and the Senate Finance Committee ought to assume the responsibility for the Tobacco Commission, and that way we could ensure that the broadband is spent. I'm sure Senator Edwards would be supportive of that.
Okay.
Mr.
All right.
Chairman, I would point out that that is not in the bill and not
the bill?
discussion.
We don't know what our staff has written into it. He has an ambiguous mission. Okay. There is a motion. If there's no further discussion, Senator Edwards, and I think you're trying to do something which is important for rural Virginia. I understand that, but the will of the committee at this moment seems not to encumber the Tobacco Commission in this way. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Okay, the clerk close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Ayes 14, noes 1, the bill is PBI'd. Senator Edwards?
All right, I have another bill that is less sexy. It simply changes from 6 months to 3 months. The opportunity, if the locality wishes, to go after, to sue treasurers or private attorneys to sue in the locality to recover delinquent taxes or other charges that may be owed to a locality. Right now, they have to wait 6 months before they can file a suit. They want to my locality anyway wants 3 months. And maybe, I don't know if it's controversial or not. I've heard, at least from one treasurer, a friend of mine in another area, says he didn't like the bills.
Didn't like it? Okay.
Did not like it, but I haven't.
Well, Senator Edwards, I guess for clarification purposes, maybe you or someone can address this. The way the bill is currently written, if in fact the due date is December 5th or June 5th, if we're talking about real property, would the date of delinquency be the day after where you start counting, so that like 3 months later you can engage a private collection agent?
Well, yeah, it says the governing body may place local taxes or other charges which have been delinquent for change 6 to 3 months or more in the hands of a sheriff or somebody, a local, somebody to file a suit. You got to wait 6 months right now before you can sue.
It just seemed to me, you know, in dealing with collections, that seemed a bit aggressive. If that's
well, that would be the question.
Right. Okay.
In my locality, they say if you wait that long, they're gone. You never collect it. That's what they're telling me.
Okay. All right. Anyone here to speak in favor of this bill?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm Charlie Croson, representing VML and VACO, and we do support the bill. The treasurers, I represent them also. They have taken no position.
Okay. Anyone else to speak for the bill or no position? All right. What's the pleasure of the committee? Is there a second? Motion properly supported to pass the bill by indefinitely. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll's open.
Roll is open. Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
You're covered.
Ayes 15, noes 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is passed by.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Edwards. Senator Chafin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My Senate Bill 879 was filed to attempt to solve a dispute in one of my counties regarding a tax issue. We've reached an agreement with the Manufacturers Association to request that the bill be referred to Senator Wagner's Manufacturing Development Commission for further study. Everybody has agreed to that request. And Senator Wagner has agreed to take the bill in and to look into the matter after session. So I respectfully request a letter from the committee to request the bill be further studied with the Manufacturing Development Commission.
Okay. Senator Chafin, so you're not offering a substitute then today?
I am not going to offer
And what is your wish? Do you wish to continue the bill to the 2019 session or leave it on the table, pass it by?
I wish for the bill to be passed by for the year with a letter to the
Gotcha.
commission.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the committee then?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Motion properly supported that the bill be passed by indefinitely, but there would be a letter forthcoming requesting the study from Senator Wagner's work group.
Mr. Chairman, did we say pass by indefinitely for the year?
For the year.
Pass by for the year.
So you want to continue it to 2019?
I do-
That's the technical term, I suppose.
I do want to continue it to 2019
Okay.
to be studied in the commission.
All right, was that the motion then?
Yes, sir.
Motion properly supported that the bill, that is Senate Bill 879, be continued to the 2019 session with a letter requesting the additional study. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 14, no zero.
Ayes 14, no zero. The bill is continued to the 2019 session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Chapin. Senator DeSteffe. Before you come up, let me take care of a technical matter here that I should have. Senator Stanley had a bill on the docket this morning that he needed to entertain some amendments to, and I agreed that it would be passed by for the day. Senate Bill 28. Do I hear a motion to go ahead and pass? The motion properly supported to pass by Senate Bill 28 for the day. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that bill is passed by for the day. All right, Senator DeSteffe.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you for having me today. First bill we'll take up is Senate Bill 56. So Senate Bill 56 is the Line of Duty Act, and I know you've already heard a few versions of this today. This one just grandfathers anyone that had passed away or was injured in the line of duty, and then had a child born after that and already on the employee plan. So, I'm sorry, already on the family plan. There is a fiscal impact on this. We were working with the insurance folks, and they said they believed with I think they said 10 people or whatever the number of people was, there'd be about a $75,000 fiscal impact on this. We actually put a budget amendment in for this. So what this does, and I think you've already heard this 12 different times, so I don't want to belabor it, but this just covers it. If they had children before, were on the family plan, then after they were disabled for whatever reason, they had another child, that new child would be covered. This grandfathers those individuals in.
Okay. And I think were you in here when we had the conversation about the fact that the dust hadn't settled on LODA, and we may want to create another work study or do something rather than passing individual bills?
No, sir, I wasn't. But we did ask over the summer when we were putting this bill in, we did ask what the financial impact was. It was somewhere around $70,000. We put in a budget request for $75,000 on this. So, but it's the will of the committee, whatever you all want to do.
All right, thank you, Senator DeSteffe. Senator Norman.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we carry the bill over to 2019. I think we have to be consistent on this, and I would say, Senator DeSteffe, earlier in the morning, we had some very compelling and heart-wrenching testimony from a gentleman who's been adversely affected significantly by one of these LODA changes. So we just need to comprehensively look at all of them as a unit. So I would so move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Is there a second? Second. So, did you have anyone to speak to this before we take this action?
I had folks to speak, but they've already spoke. So
Okay.
I really don't want to inundate and
Right. Okay.
take more time
Okay.
on the committee
All right.
on this one.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table that the bill be continued to the 2019 session. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Place your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 13, noes 2.
Ayes 13, noes 2. The bill is continued. Senator DeSteffe, are you prepared to take up your other two bills?
I am, Mr. Chairman, and I did want to say I talked to our friend last night, and he's, is not healing as well as he thought. So I told him that I would mention it this morning and have everybody keep him in our prayers. With that, I'm prepared to address the bills just as I was last week.
Okay.
And I told him I was going to continue to present them today. He had sent everybody on the committee an email, but more importantly, I'm more interested in him healing quickly and coming back so he can talk to us. With that said, we'll move on to Senate Bill 579. Senate Bill 579 requires that 20% of any unused EISTC credits be available to increase the annual cap of $9 million on the neighborhood assistance tax credit. There is, according to the financial impact statement on this bill, there is no impact on this. However, I've always been honest with this committee, and if I've come up with something or figured something else out, I've always pointed it out. The issue is on the EISTC tax credits, by statute, we're supposed to lower the revenues coming into the budget by that $25 million. So if we followed our statute, that would happen. And in this case, there would be no financial impact. And in Senate Bill 869, there would be no financial impact. However, I think finance is here. They can chime in on this. For the last 3 years, we've had it at $5 million, which does not follow statute. And over the last 3 of the 5 years, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we were over the $5 million. And we'll be over that $5 million today. But again, by statute, we say $25 million. The way the budget is set up, it's only at $5 million, which needs to be corrected. And I hope we'll correct it for this year or next year regardless. But that impacts both of these bills, so there truly would be a financial impact on this. However, if you follow statute, it'd be perfectly fine, no financial impact. Everybody would be happy, and we'd all be eating donuts and rainbow cookies, and nobody would put on weight.
Okay.
So,
All right. Tax, you want to make a statement on that?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Kristen Collins from the Department of Taxation. So what happens in the revenue forecast when John Lehman puts together the official revenue forecast? He bases it on how much people are actually claiming. So if there are credits that are significantly under the cap, he doesn't, assume the full $25 million. In this case, he assumes roughly the $5 million that is actually being claimed. Senator Steph is correct. For fiscal year 17, which those numbers just came out recently, it was $6.3 million that were claimed, so slightly over the forecast.
Okay.
17 was 9.7, 16 was.
The amounts issued were, yes, that's correct. The amounts issued were closer to the 9.7 million. What John Lehman generally assumes in the forecast is the amounts that are actually claimed. But yes, Senator Steph is correct. The amounts have been increasing each year, so that will likely need to be adjusted in the future.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may add to that, if you look at the history of the program, it's been increasing by just over $3 million a year for the last 3 or 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, on this one. So truly where we should be, if we look at last year in the history of the 4 years, for 2018, we should be looking at somewhere around $13 million. For 2019, we need to look at somewhere closer to $16 million, and then on, based on the past history and the way things have increased. Again, I don't sit on finance. I'm not doing the budget on this side. I'm just saying past performance.
Thank you, Senator DeSteph. I have mixed feelings on this now, particularly since you don't have your spokesperson here this morning. And with the issues that have been raised, presuming we have merit in both of these bills, which I think there is, perhaps what we need to do is put the financial contingency clause on both bills and allow your friend to come convince us to make that adjustment in the budget.
Mr. Chairman, that would be wonderful, and I'm very confident that he will be available next Tuesday and well-heeled.
Okay.
With a lot of prayers.
All right. As it pertains to Senate Bill 579, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we amend it and add the contingency clause on the bill.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Motion probably supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. What's the pleasure of the committee on the bill as amended?
I would now move that it be reported as amended, sir.
Okay. The motion properly supported on Senate Bill 579 as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. That bill is reported. Do you want to speak briefly to 869 as far as the underlying policy, or are you
I would
comfortable
like
with
to,
that same?
I would like to, Mr. Chair, and I actually have speakers on this today as
Okay.
well. And so what Senate Bill 869 does is broadens the eligibility criteria for students with a disability to include students with individual instruction plans attending a school for students with disabilities licensed by Department of Education and by an agency approved by Virginia Council on Private Education. This will actually save public schools money. And the way that works is today when a public schools are funded by federal, state, and local. When they take money, if this bill were enacted, it would take, in Virginia Beach, for example, about $5,500 out of their budget, which would be the state participation. They'd still keep the local and the federal. Now, on the other side, it costs the schools in the school about 4 times that amount for somebody with disabilities. When they take somebody out of the school and put them into a private school, it costs them on average $41,000
through a CSA.
$41,000 through a
Which is another
CSA.
whole big problem. for
So,
us, right?
by the way we structured this bill, it would save the schools money, it would better use the EISTC credits, and we would get an overall better bang for our dollars, saving the state and the schools more money overall. I put together a thing last year on this. It was hard to explain. I think I've got it a little bit better this year. I know my friend has it much better than I do. Judy has it 10 times better than I do. I understand, again, the same problem as before. If this were fully funded, if EISTC were fully funded and we followed statute, there'd be no financial impact. However, I understand the same discussion as before. But with that, I'd actually like to turn it over to Judy to kind of further explain, if that's okay with you,
That
Mr.
would be
Chairman,
fine. We'd be
members of the
pleased to
committee.
hear from your speaker.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Dr. Judy Jankowski, and I'm the head of school at Chesapeake Bay Academy in Virginia Beach. CBA is an independent school that serves children with significant learning disabilities, so those with autism spectrum disorder, other health impairment, speech and language impairment, developmental delays. My school is licensed by VDOE and accredited by the Virginia Association of Independent Schools. And I'm proud to say that last year my school was the recipient of the National Association of Special Education Teachers Award as a School of Excellence. I come before you today in support of children who have the ability to become successful contributing members of our society, who, if left underserved, may well be a drain on our public resources. Would it surprise you to hear that only 65% of students with a learning disability that are served in a public school graduate with a standard diploma? At CBA and other schools like mine designed specifically to meet the needs of learning disabled students, that number moves to 95%. Please know that as an educator, both in a public school and an independent school, for over 35 years, I have deep respect for public schools and the teachers who serve in them. However, after these many years of service, I also know that offering students a differentiated instructional experience, we can significantly improve their outcomes, and that has a bottom line difference. So that said, I appreciate that I'm speaking to the Finance Committee and not the Education Committee today. According to the CSA recently, the number of students being identified for special education services has continued to explode over the past 5 years. Along with the exploding number of students, the cost per student funded through a CSA has moved from $34,000 per student a year in 2017 to $34,000 in 2013 to $41,000 in 2017. Keeping these students out of the public school system is a tremendous saving to the Commonwealth, to the bottom line. Clearly, the state has the opportunity to save precious resources, both in lives and in dollars, by improving outcomes for individuals with learning disabilities. The EISTC program offers tremendous opportunities to many children. However, at this point, that opportunity has primarily been focused on mainstream learners who are seeking alternative learning environments. For the students that I serve, the opportunity to attend a school like CBA is not a choice. It's a lifeline. I hope that you'll carefully consider offering that lifeline to more students who will benefit from the life-changing experience that only a school specifically designed to meet their needs will provide. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and I sincerely hope that you'll support Senate Bill 869 and our exceptional learners across the great Commonwealth.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We appreciate your coming here this morning from your academy. Any other additional speakers on this issue, for or against?
We're good for, we're going to
Good,
hold.
okay. Got a couple people here that are interested in speaking.
Good morning, Chairman, Chairman, and members of the committee. I'm Carol Naga with the League of Women Voters. And with all due respect to the patron and the families and the children who are eligible for these scholarships, we have a big concern in general about the tax credit scholarships because of the change in the revenue that's decreased to the public schools just because of the revenue that's lost via these. So therefore, we would urge caution on supporting this. And just yesterday, we know definitely how the public schools are in dire need of funds. Delegate O'Quinn had a bill to ask that they could have commercial advertising on their school buses so that they could have public funds. So we are not in favor of expanding the eligibility, and we will have to do the math on how much this would change according to this testimony you just heard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Kathy Bircher with the Virginia Education Association. We have a long-standing opposition to these backdoor voucher programs that are tax credits that ultimately lead public dollars, and fiscal analysts will tell you that tax credits are revenue losses. These are public dollars that otherwise would have been in the state coffers to spend on public good. And so public dollars being diverted to private schools is where we have a really big issue. I wanted to address two pieces that this bill actually expands eligibility, so the thought of saving money because these students would not be enrolled in public schools. This bill expands the eligibility to students who are not currently enrolled in our public schools and are either homeschooled or already in private schools. They would never count to towards our ADM, and so when they are enrolled in these programs, there's no cost benefit to the public schools because they were never counted into our average daily membership, which is how your funding comes to the public schools. I also did want to mention that if you visit the Virginia Department of Education and look at their graduation rates, you will see our most recent data on graduation rates for students with disabilities is actually 87%. The VEA opposes this bill.
Okay, thank you. A couple more speakers.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jeremy Bennett with the Virginia School Boards Association. I'd just like to echo the comments of Ms. Bircher. The VSBA has a long-held position opposing tax credits, tax credit legislation that provide vouchers or tuition tax credits for elementary, secondary, private education. I'd also like to just point out the accountability issue that private and home schools have no direct accountability to taxpayers for the use of their own tax revenues because they're explicitly excluded from public accountability under the state SOL and federal ESSA, and we are opposed to the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Tom Smith with the Superintendent's Association. Having spoken against this bill a number of years ago, or this tax credit process, I know the policy question's been answered, but this expands tremendously both what the tax credits will pay for. I believe it goes from 100% of the state share to 400%, if I remember right, or 300 to 400%.
300 to 400%.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to make a comment. Having done school budgets for a number of years, Boards of supervisors do not give you money for children who are not there. If the child is not enrolled in the public schools, it's not on their account, and you don't get the local or the federal share. So we've got tremendous concerns about this bill. It does expand it, and so we would ask that you oppose the bill.
Okay, thank you. Other speakers? Okay, Senator DeSteffi, if you have any closing remarks?
Well, in closing, the backstory behind this is we have children who are autistic with learning, and it's not learning difficulties, they learn it differently. So if you have an autistic child or a child with dyslexia or dysgraphia, once you teach them how to learn around and a new way to learn and comprehend that information, and I've seen this at Chesapeake Bay Academy, not only do they take them up to grade level, they take them and surpass that grade level. So at Chesapeake Bay Academy, they actually register them to take online college classes. So you have juniors and seniors there, not just keeping up with their peers in public schools, surpassing them and graduating with college credits for their junior and senior years in a lot of the cases. So not everybody learns the same. This actually is a better way to handle children who learn differently. And with my friend, we spent a lot of time talking about the program and how better to serve those children who learn differently. Once you teach them that core way of learning around, that's where they really take off. And I will tell you, when I spoke at the school, I want to say that almost 80 or 90% of the kids had already been accepted in college. So it's a great school, they do a great job, and I think this would not just help them, but it would truly help an underserved population. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Senator DeSteffi. What's the pleasure of the committee? I think at a minimum, we would need to attach the financial contingency clause.
Yes, sir.
And I'd have to share, Senator DeSteffi, that I was, in reference to the last speakers, perhaps was one of the last holdouts. I didn't support this tax credit program until it was extended to children with special needs. So, that's where I'm at with it. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move the amendment.
Motion properly supported that we add the financial contingency clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the bill is in front of us. What's your pleasure?
Move to report.
Second.
Motion properly supported that the bill, that is Senate Bill 869 as amended, be reported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 11, nays 4.
Ayes 11, nays 4. The bill is reported.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have a great
Senator
day.
DeSteffi. Okay. All right, I believe that completes our non-members, and we now need to work down a list of a few bills from our members. Senator Carrico, you had another bill. Do you want to take that one up?
This will be Senate Bill 498, I believe.
Yes, Senate Bill 498.
Mr. Chairman, this bill came to me by the request of some.
Do you have a substitute you want to offer on this one?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Motion properly supported to adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we have the substitute now being distributed. Okay, Senator Carrico.
So if you recall, Mr. Chairman, a few years ago when we ventured down to bring in all the sheriff's departments into the law enforcement retirement plan, there were some small municipalities, town police agencies that had some aging law enforcement officers that didn't have the same kind of opportunity because we were only dealing with county sheriffs. This came at a request by some of the small departments that are in rural areas, towns, that have 3 or less law enforcement officers. And the problem that exists is when these small towns are offering law enforcement to the town, because a lot of the schools sit within the town boundaries, if they don't have an agency there, that these schools are having to be covered by the sheriff's departments, which they have resource officers that go from school to school to school. The town doesn't have the ability, the small towns doesn't have the ability to cover these completely, and so there was a request that was made that the state do small agencies such as 3-member departments or less to do a 50% match for those agencies. Now, I don't know exactly how many of these small agencies that would qualify in this. I think the staff has looked at that, and there'll be several of them, but this came at a request from some of the small agencies in my area. It's hard to recruit anybody to take a position that there's no retirement involved in, and the only option left if they don't have qualified people to take those positions is the county enter MOU with the town to provide coverage with the sheriff's deputies, which are not there 24/7 like the town is. So that's the essence of why the bill is here.
Okay. Anyone here to speak to this bill?
I know VRS has some issues with it.
Right, VRS, is someone here from VRS? Yes, Patricia, I noticed it appears that your system modification costs would be more than the, which is one time, but would be significantly more than the annual cost of doing this.
We had met with Senator Carrico's aide to kind of try to share some of the concerns that we had regarding the bill. One, the system costs will be significant because whenever we have to build something that doesn't exist, and then this has a lot of tendrils that it touches with a law enforcement. So that'll be somewhat significant. The other thing is that the bill relates to towns that have only 2 or less, but it doesn't say that indefinitely. So will they have, what do we do if they add an additional officer? And so how do we treat them? And perhaps the amendment with the substitute might address that, but I'm not 100% sure because I haven't really had a chance to absorb it. So overall, I think, this is a little bit complicated because you have a small number of really small localities who, some of them have already elected the benefits and are paying for them, and so then the Commonwealth would be picking up those costs, and then you have some localities who aren't really necessarily in a position to pick them up. They've had the option to elect it and have chosen not to, but then they would be required to provide those additional benefits and pay for it. So those are some of the concerns that we had regarding the bill.
Okay. It appears the substitute addresses your concern about growth of an employees, but it doesn't resolve, how that's covered by the locality. Anyone else to speak to the bill?
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Neil Menks representing Virginia Municipal League. We appreciate that the substitute does take care of that question of what happens if they add another employee, though it seems kind of strange that you might have a very small town with 2 very different retirement systems in terms of how they're funded. We think the bill will be complex and challenging and could be very financially challenging to these very small localities.
Okay. All right, additional speakers? All right, it appears we've got a decision whether we pass it with the clause or continue it to next year and work out some issues. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we carry it over to 2019.
Okay. Do you feel a sense of urgency on this? You okay with that?
Well, I think having introduced it and starting to see some of the issues that has arisen from the conversations that have taken place with BRS and trying to help the municipalities understand why this is a need. that carrying it over to 2019 just gives me a little more time to talk and to work through those problems that were brought up when the bill was introduced.
Okay, very good. Was there a second to that motion? Second. Motion properly supported that the bill be continued to the 2019 session. Clerk, open the roll. Roll is open. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Whoop, we just hold, keep the roll open. Got it. Okay, clerk, close the roll. Ayes 15, no 0. Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is continued to the 2019 session. All right, looking down the list here, Senator Dance.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 248 provides technical amendments as well as clarifying language that I've introduced on behalf of the Virginia Retirement System. The technical amendments include, number one, adding other healthcare professionals to the definition of medical board, which would harmonize the definition of medical board with other areas of the Virginia Code that describes the composition and duties of the medical board. Number two is adding full-time civilian service of the United States to clarify that only full-time civilian service is eligible for purchase of prior service. And number three is adding flexibility to the long-term care coverage program by adding reference to similar benefit. This change will provide flexibility in administering these long-term care programs in light of the changing environment in the group long-term care market. And there is a representative from Virginia Retirement System if there is a need, and there is no fiscal impact.
Okay. Senator Dance, I think you have the bill, the one bill that I had marked okay without any reservations.
Wow. I like that.
You've got reservations, Senator, on it? Anyone here to speak to this bill, for or against? And okay, there is a motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 248. Clerk, open the roll.
The roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is reported. Thank you, Senator Dance, for working with the VRS on this. Okay. Senator Ruff. Senator Ruff, you didn't win the prize this time.
Senate Bill 321. This would add $1 monthly credit for health insurance for retirees. This credit has not been increased since 1999. It would have an impact on the budget, and therefore I would move that we add the clause to the bill.
Okay. Senator Ruff has offered the motion that we add the contingency clause. Is there a second? Second. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Senator
Mr.
Ruff.
Chairman, I think there are folks who'd like to speak to it, but
Be pleased to hear from representatives from the state employee workforce.
Mr. Chairman, Ron Jordan, representing the Virginia Government Employees Association. Let me kind of help the senator with it. It doesn't increase it by $1. It indexes it to the cost of living adjustment annually. And had that been in place last year, the COLA was about 1.29. It would have increased it by a nickel rather than $1 on it. So let me kind of give you some background here.
Did you say a nickel?
A nickel.
Okay.
A nickel instead. Let me give you some background. Unlike many other states and many large local governments in Virginia, the Commonwealth does not provide health insurance, does not pay for health insurance for retirees. There are a number of us around here who realize that. Instead, it provides a credit equal to $4 a month for every year of active service. And the value of that's dramatically eroded since it was last increased 18 years ago. And the health insurance credits remain stagnant while health insurance premiums have increased about 180% during that time. Many retirees pay their health insurance premiums as an automatic deduction from their retirement check. They also get a letter with your retirement check that says if your retirement check is insufficient to cover the cost of your health insurance premium, you'll be billed separately. Now, the fact clearly when your Medicare and Medicare supplement insurance premiums are higher than your retirement check, we have a problem. This bill won't fix it, but it will begin to help. The increase proposed in this bill is incredibly modest. For example, if the COLA last year, as indicated, was 1.29%, if it had been in effect, it would have increased from $4 to $4.05. Also, the retiree must have at least 30 years service to a full boatload of service at 30 years to be eligible for this increase. And so it would have gone up about $12 last year over the course of the year. It's modeled after the bill you all passed several years ago that Senator Ruff also carried, that established a life insurance floor and indexed it to the COLA. The retiree, again, must have 30 years of service to receive this increase. For those concerned about the unfunded liability of this program, I'd suggest to you that the Commonwealth's OPEB is structured as a credit and is fairly pecuniary, and the bond agencies don't view it as an issue of their concern. With that, I'd urge you to pass the bill.
Okay. Other speakers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wayne Huggins, representing the State Police Association. Ron said everything I was going to say, and like I hear nothing more important to our retirees than this singular issue, and would hope that you would consider supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. Other speakers? For or against? For, okay.
Mr. Chairman, members, and Senator Ruff, thank you for carrying the bill. My name is Walt Pulliam. I am a Virginia retiree, Department of Corrections. And I can only echo what these gentlemen have said and what you heard from the police officer earlier today. Healthcare costs are just outrageous. We're talking about inflation. Just this last year alone, 4 times the rate of inflation, nearly 9%. And that seems consistent. And when you apply that to a flat rate, that's a de facto cut. And so I would urge you to support this. This is at least a start to try to hold the line. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Other speakers? All right, Senator Ruff, does that include?
I think they have.
Okay. Okay. All right, obviously the bill has merit. It also has cost, and we have the contingency clause. Even the nickel, if my math is right, it's going to cost about $4 million a year if you extend it out, because it's a lot of people involved. I know when we last made a move from $2.50 to $4, it cost about $110 million just to make that $1.50 incremental change. But that's all good. All right, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report.
Move to report. That's been seconded with the finesse and contingency clause. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
All right, cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is reported. Thank you, Senator Ruff. Senator Vogel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members
Senate
of the
Bill
committee.
593.
Those few who are left. Mr. Chair, this bill came out of Commerce and Labor, and it's before this committee. It is not a new subject to all of you. What my bill does is it raises the age limit from 10 to 18 for which health insurers would be required to treat the diagnosis and treatment of autism spectrum disorder. What the original bill did was take the cap away completely, but the bill was amended in committee to set it at age 18. It has a very negligible fiscal impact. I know there are 1 or 2 people here who wish to speak to this, so I will make it very brief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Be pleased to hear from our speakers.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Teresa Champion with the Virginia Autism Project. Thank you for giving me a few minutes. I could talk at length about the age of diagnosis in Virginia, age 6 to 7, that we only cover age 10 currently, and no other diagnosis stop based on your age with any health insurance coverage. But I'm going to focus today on the fiscal impact because I know that's what the committee's interested in. And the good news is the fiscal impact of this bill, when it was enacted, is now less than projected. We were very thoughtful in the way we crafted this bill about the rising costs of premiums. And I've listened to everyone coming before you this morning about those issues. Early intervention was the target of our initial bill, age 6, and it was raised to age 10. You know that there's an annual report from the State Corporation Commission that has identified the costs of this bill for early intervention to be $3.50 a year, or 29 cents per member per month. So that's the most expensive piece. Now we're talking about raising this. And adolescents do benefit, raising the coverage to age 18. Teens hit puberty. Unfortunately, many of them have health issues. Seizures may start occurring. They lose skills. There's a transition that they're going through. So what we know is that the laws of behavior analysis apply all the way through your age. They don't stop just because you're young. Medical professionals prescribe this. This is evidence-based treatment. We've already taken care of the most expensive component, which is early intervention. Now we need to take the next step at this minimal policy impact that this bill has. And I ask that you support this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Yes, next.
Hi, thank you very much for letting me speak. My name is Christy Vanko, and I live in Hanover County in Senator McDougal's district. And I'm a parent of a child who is 13 who's been diagnosed with autism, and I'm also a provider. I'm a board-certified and licensed behavior analyst, and as she spoke, we're licensed by the Board of Medicine. And I actually tend to treat adults. And I do that through the waiver because right now insurance doesn't cover adults. But it's definitely these medical practices and the things that we are doing are very necessary for these age groups and above. And somewhere the money's coming out of it. You're going to pay for it somewhere. Something's going to happen where we need to support these people, especially through their transition years. And so we really hope that you'll consider increasing this cap to the 18 that we've asked for.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mr.
Other speakers,
Chairman.
Senator Vogel? Or?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may
Senator
I
Donovan?
just have a question for the speaker from the
You
Autism
bet.
Society?
Senator
Could
Donovan?
you tell me again what the $360 is that you're referencing?
Sorry, $3.50 per year on premium increase.
For everybody in the Commonwealth?
For the people who are covered by the insurance coverage, the impact to premiums, and I apologize, I stumbled. Our CPA that usually addresses this is not here today. $3.50 impact on premiums. That translates to, this was what we did in early intervention. That translates to 29 cents per member per month increase in premium. So we've had the fiscal impact of the greatest dollar amounts. Now we're talking about a less of a fiscal impact.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Donovan?
Is there any way that we can get documentation regarding the reason I bring this up is that the number one issue that I have with my constituents, and one of the number one things I was charged with when I was elected, was to control the cost of health care in Virginia. And in Virginia, as of 2009, we had over 60 mandated benefits, which puts us in the top 10 nationwide. And the data on this suggests that for every mandated benefit we include, it increases the cost of health care for everyone by 1%, and for some benefits as much as 5%. And so it would comfort me, based on that data that's been presented to me across the country, to see if we had any estimates or analysis of what it cost before we proceed, because this is kind of the right hand and the left hand not knowing what we're doing. We're working really, really, really hard to reduce cost in the marketplace for private insurance. And if, as much as I understand this need, and God knows I do, for us to assess that need to all of our constituents that can't pay for their health care costs, it's a real dilemma. And so I'm concerned about the data we need to make this decision, to find out if we, what the cost will be, not to the State Corporation Commission, but to the individuals with insurance, until we sort out this issue with health care.
Senator Vogel, was some of that vetted in Commerce and Labor?
Yeah, well, we had a discussion about that issue in Commerce and Labor, and that was why I came back with an amendment to the bill prior to making the presentation, because the initial bill had no cap. And that was going to actually ask the committee and ask the legislature to pass language that would say we're removing the cap and we're asking health insurance providers to cover autism treatment and health care for a lifetime. And what we've said now is we're taking it from age 10 to age 18. And I would just ask members of the committee to consider that the average age of diagnosis is between 7 and 10. So for many people, you're missing out on any of that early intervention at all if your health insurance stops at age 10. So for that window in those between 10 and 18, in those 8 years, I would argue that that intervention saves over the long haul perhaps millions of dollars because having access to health care and some of that treatment makes the difference between being a person who is not functioning, is not contributing in society, to makes a difference between somebody who is later in life. So to Senator Donovan's questions, yes, there is a marginal difference in terms of what that cost is, but I would also argue that they have to weigh the benefit, which I think in that 8-year window is immense.
Okay. Senator Donovan, I think even this would require some modest general fund appropriation, so it will require the clause, so perhaps we can vet it further if you want to do that.
That would be great if we could get some numbers and just do a real analysis. And we have some other similar bills that are going to be looked at in your subcommittee, Mr. Chairman, and so I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. Are you moving the clause then?
Yes, sir, I move the clause.
Motion properly supported to add the financing contingency clause, and then we will also be looking at the underlying impact on insurance rates as we make a decision on this one. Further discussion? Hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee? Motion to report, is there a second? Motion properly supported. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Vogel, you want to push your button up there?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, no 0.
Ayes 15, no 0. The bill is reported.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Vogel, and your speakers here. All right, now let's go. Senator McDougal, you have a bill.
Mr. Chairman, I move the substitute.
Okay, Senator McDougal is bringing a substitute. Is motion properly supported to adopt the substitute? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? All right, the bill is in front of you.
Mr. Chairman, this is referred to as micro markets, and to let the committee know, we had a conversation about this in the Ag Committee, but these are markets wholly enclosed in a business for employees exclusively. So it's not like a convenience store open to the public. It's for business, and the ability to provide to those employees fresh food, not just the traditional vending machine snacks like we see, chips and pretzels, but actual have real food or fresh food. Mr. Chairman, this is today something that's permissible, but there is not really a system to make sure that it's ongoing. So it's a question of where this regulation would have been. As it moved through the Ag Committee, had a fiscal impact, we've come up with a substitute that we think deals with that situation. If I'm misstating that, I know April will correct me.
Okay. Are you paving the way for Amazon or what?
Mr. Chairman, no, but we are paving the way to have a healthier Virginia so we can reduce some of those premiums that Senator Donovan's worried about.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Donovan,
just a
now I think we
question
have
for the
speakers.
patron. We have one of these at my hospital because the employees asked for it. Why would we impose regulations on that?
Mr. Chairman, I think if they're having there's a question about whether having some of those fresh items available would require health department inspection because that's more of a either restaurant or convenience store type entity. And I think that it is in question. It certainly exists and people are doing it, but it's a question about whether they can exist in the current form. But I have a helper to tag in to talk about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Jeff Smith, representing the Virginia Automatic Merchandising Association, which is the vending industry in Virginia. More and more every day, and I know you've seen this, there's more and more pressure with regard to providing healthier choices for food and snacks in schools, in the workplace, and everywhere else. There's a trend where marketing delivery systems have been changing and evolving. And today, there are a number of business locations, not just Amazon, Mr. Chairman, but also other major facilities in Virginia and manufacturers that have employee break rooms. And that's where this is beginning, this micro-market concept, all over the country, not just here. And in order to recognize and see how this new evolution is evolving, the industry in Virginia, the industry in Georgia, the industry in Indiana, for example, are considering this type of registration so that we can figure out where they are, what they're doing, because the uniqueness here is that it is a food service that's unattended, but it's monitored. And that's the key here. It's an unattended food service, but it is monitored because frequently, on a weekly basis, company representatives have to come in and resupply the facility and make sure everything is fresh. Number two, everything that'll be sold and provided in this facility is sealed packages, but it is unmanned. And a combination of your telephone, combination of your smart cards and different things that are out there, you are automatically checked in and checked out inside the confines of the employee break room at these facilities. It is, as the senator had noted, they already had it. It is well received and well recognized as far as providing a service. This legislation is trying to take a baby step to begin to recognize this, see where they are, and then down the road we can determine through various agencies whether things need to be addressed or whether not.
Okay.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions from our speaker? Okay, anyone else here to speak for or against this particular bill? Senator McDougall, your substitute, does it address the cost at all, or do we still have roughly $250,000 a year?
The original bill was a license. This is a registration, and so with what we did with this, it's would be in essence at least what was done in another similar type situation through tax was a portal on the website where entities registered, but it's not a license where they actually have to receive it.
So there would still be some cost, but more minimal. Is that what we're looking at?
Mr. Chairman, in the other situation, the tax just set up the portal and they didn't have any additional costs because it was in the IT system that they had. But I don't want to.
I guess the question is whether or not we need to put the clause on it or whether it's so de minimis that we could just approve the concept. Is there anyone here to speak to that, or staff? Have y'all evaluated this at all? Jason, have you evaluated this?
Mr. Chairman, the intent of the patron's amendment was to remove the cost on VDAX, but I do see VDAX standing in line to speak.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Charlie Broadus, Division Director at VDAX over the Food Safety Program. It is would be our recommendation to DPB that we still would require one position to do the inspections that would be required.
Do you anticipate a fee that would cover the cost of that employee, or?
Right now, the fee is set at $40 per year per establishment, so it would just barely touch it.
Okay. Senator McDougal, we probably should still look at this with the clause, and it shouldn't be too big a hurdle.
Mr. Chairman, I anticipated that we might be there. I don't know in the substitute version that there actually is a fee, and since we've gone to a registration, but we can put the clause and continue that conversation until we get this was a quick substitute, so let everybody digest it.
All right. What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion is seconded that we add the financial contingency clause and work this out for the registration process. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly, is there a second? Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill, that is Senate Bill 414 as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Ayes 14, noes 1. The bill is reported. Thank you, Senator McDougal. I believe that clears the docket. Okay, with that, there being no further business, the committee will rise.